Cities and sustainability, that's at the core of our weekly show, Urban Reality. From water to waste, from pollution to traffic, we've covered it all multiple times. Now, as we come close to 2018, we're moving the conversation and the debate from the policy front, from the government action or lack of it front, to the citizens. How do we, the people who inhabit the cities, make our cities better? How do we break our own terrible habits and go that extra mile to make a lifestyle change? And more importantly, how do we step up our civic engagement, our engagement with local authorities to drive change? The bottom line is, for most of us, it's always someone else's problem or the government's to solve. Today on Urban Reality, let's speak to some passionate citizens on how do we make every little thing that bugs us our problem to solve in 2019. Joining me on the conversation are Shaina NC, BJP spokesperson, also V. Ravichandar, civic evangelist, Advocate Gopal Shankar Narayanan, Dilip Cherian, image guru and founder of Perfect Relations. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. I think before I start, let me just remind all our viewers of what's happening around our big cities. Now consider this, 14 Indian cities are amongst the world's 20 most polluted according to WHO. Now this is a figure which has of course made the headlines throughout the year. Most Indian cities are facing a serious waste crisis. About 1.5 lakh tons of waste is generated every day and less than 30% is treated. 70% goes to landfills which have become so huge that they are actually called urban mountains and they repeatedly do catch fire as well. 21 major cities, including Delhi, Bangalore and Hyderabad, are expected to run out of groundwater by 2020. And this is going to affect access to water for 100 million people. And this is a Niti Aayog report. And finally, look at our traffic conditions. 3 Indian cities find their way into the top 10 list of worst traffic conditions in the world. Mumbai, Pune and Kolkata. Traffic congestion during peak hours in 4 major cities, which is Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore and Kolkata, cost the economy 1.47 lakh crore annually, according to BCG. All right, so lots to talk about. Mr. Ravichandar, you've been a civic evangelist now for over 2 decades. How will you rate? I mean, have you seen an increase in the rate of people's engagement with these issues in your own city? And, of course, other cities that you're working with, people willing to change their own behavior and work with the community to bring about a change?
Most certainly, Manisha. My own experience, both with Bangalore and some of the other cities that I've worked with, specifically Chennai and Pune, I have found that the level of civic engagement is at significantly higher levels than ever before. In fact, for example, if you take a city like Bangalore, I'm quite fond of saying, we have a huge share of our problems, but the people per capita who are working on civic issues, working with the system, working in the RWAs, is at an all-time high. So one senses that citizens want to figure out how to go ahead and fix the city with or without the cooperation of the authorities. And I think that's, for example, just to give you an example, in Bangalore, the lake movement, I mean, I know Bellandur is a big problem, but if you see some of the other lakes like Puttanhalli, they've all been revived predominantly with citizen efforts.
All right, so you're saying that Bangalore, Pune and Chennai, all the 3 cities that you work in, you actually see an increasing level of civic engagement. Mr. Dilip Cherian, can we say the same for Delhi? I mean, honestly, I look around, despite being the closest to the political seat and political power, I find that the civic engagement here and citizens' own sense of responsibility towards any of the issues we've spoken about is pretty poor.
Manisha, there are 3 reasons why this is happening. One is that in Delhi, everybody is disconnected from their neighbor. The RWA movements are just about getting off the ground as far as mobilization of citizens for positive things is concerned. They're always there to ask for other things. The second thing is that precisely because of the reason that you mentioned, because government is so big in Delhi, there is this happy attitude that everything must be part of the criticism of government. So citizens are quite happy to get together to berate and abrogate their own responsibilities and push it on to somebody else. So that's another attitude. And the third thing is that almost anything in Delhi becomes political quite quickly. So, people take sides, people, decide that this is good because so-and-so has decided it, and this is bad because so-and-so has opposed it. So I think that these three reasons would explain why civic engagement, involvement in a positive sense is pathetically low in Delhi.
But do you believe that in other cities is better? Or at least let me then go to Gopal and find from him. Gopal,
it is better because, for example, this morning I spoke to a cousin of mine in Cochin and we were talking about the floods, and he said, look, it is amazing what the young people of Cochin actually worked during that period of time. He says, aside from all class, all caste, all religious and all kinds of other affiliations they had, they came together, and he says they're still continuing well after the floods to make sure that the changes that had been suggested are actually implemented in and around those cities. So I think it's probably different in other cities.
So is it really a North India problem, Gopal? I mean, lawyers such as you have actually fought or filed PILs. Look at the pollution levels in Delhi. And despite the Supreme Court ruling on limited fireworks, the city really didn't stop. So is it just a North India, Delhi-centric sort of a problem? And you believe that citizens in other big cities of India are far more involved in the governance process?
Well, I think Delhi has this peculiar problem, Manisha, about its governance. You have too many authorities. You have a central government authority through the Lieutenant Governor. You have the Delhi government with the Chief Minister. You have several municipal corporations, all of them running pretty much at odds with each other because, like Mr. Cherian said, there's an incredible amount of politics involved. The citizen engagement, I don't find it discouraging in Delhi. There is a reasonable amount of it. The only thing is, very often I find the citizenry, despite the enthusiasm, their level of actually coming out and doing something about it is occasionally only limited to, social media exchanges which try to build social movements. Bangalore, I think, is a good example, as is Cochin, of places where citizen movements have made a huge difference, particularly with reference to waste management and medical assistance. These are things on which citizen movements in other cities have done well. But the apathy that I find among Delhi residents, I think, is not limited to Delhi alone. We have seen that in many other cities. Bombay is facing a severe crisis, both as far as air and green cover is concerned. And I'm surprised that a city which has been so much at the forefront of everything that's dynamic and beautiful is now being plagued by serious environmental issues when trees are just being lopped and mercilessly brought down in the name of metro construction and metro car depots and things like that. Despite all this, one must understand that it is important for citizenry today to understand that they form part of the fourth estate with all the social media we have.
Right.
So that's an avenue they should be using to much greater effect.
Okay, Mumbai. So then let's go to the lady on the panel, Shaina NC. Shaina, Mumbai now, we keep talking about the indomitable spirit of Mumbai. Every time, the city is flooded, people do step up, come out to help each other. But I'm just looking at the entire waste segregation efforts which are happening. It's not been easy. I mean, getting the BMC and the citizens to work together hasn't been always extremely easy. Just, do you believe that right now, what is really required is citizens to work very closely with municipal authorities? That is a model which needs a lot more working upon?
Yes, I think that it's high time citizens only sit and criticize and talk about how bad the situation is. They need to step in as well vis-a-vis the administration. In Mumbai, we've been fortunate to see many such movements which have worked, which is people's participation, whether you take the beach cleaning of Versova Beach done by Afroz Shah and the BMC, or Chinu Katwara and the BMC at Mahim Beach. So there have been movements like that, but I think the larger movement that we really need to be talking about now is not just water conservation, which is a must given in schools, colleges, and so that the education process starts right at the bottom, but more important, the ban of using plastic, which our state government has done. which in itself is a big, big step towards a positive environment. We do know that in a city like Mumbai, you have a concrete jungle at one end, and there's been a huge fight to keep our green spaces alive, and we've had people's participation there too. Our Forest Minister Sudhir Mungantiwar has done a fantastic job in plantation of trees, over 3.5 crore trees in and around Maharashtra. So I think that if people participate with the government, there are lots of things that can actually make a sensible difference. So like for example, when Devendra Fadnavis talked about banning plastic, there was a lot of resistance, but the people of the city have participated and supported. So I think that government on its own cannot do everything. People's participation is a must, and it's all very well for us to sit on the fence and criticize and say this should be better and that should be better, but how many of us really segregate our own garbage? How many of us believe that, you know, our buildings can have rainwater harvesting as has been done in Chennai? So there are lots of learnings from lots of parts of this country where we need not be the skeptical, as I always like to say, are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? Moment we highlight this, a lot of people will realize it's good to be part of the solution sometimes rather than just constantly critiquing on the problem.
Okay, so we'll come back to topic by topic, what are some of the things that we can be doing or should be doing better. Mr. Ravichandran, we did a couple of weeks ago, I know that you said that you are seeing unprecedented level of citizen engagement today in a city like Bengaluru. Yet when you look at some of the big problems that are facing the city, even something like a traffic, unable to bring about that behavioral change in people. And we keep saying that, you know, that's because there aren't enough policemen who are actually policing the city. That's always going to be a chicken and an egg situation, isn't it, in a country which is so populated, to have actually enough monitors of our behavior?
The leadership and the bureaucratic administration needs to really invest time and effort in behavioral change on the ground. So for example, in the context of waste management, if the leadership embraces the idea of segregation at source, currently I think Bangalore has about 35 to 40%, it's possible to increase that. So when you come for something like traffic, for example, from a citizen point of view, I think the biggest problem really is we don't have respect for the law of the land. So you find people jumping signals, you find two-wheelers on footpaths and the like. So citizens need to develop a respect for law of the land, and the law of the land needs to be pretty brutal in terms of applying the law when such violations happen, if we are to move ahead. So this is important for both parties to do their bit for this to happen. The other point I just wanted to mention, for example, if you look at, see, a lot of citizens get bogged down also by having to fight the system, because the system often comes up with ideas that a lot of people feel is not the right one for the city. So for example, Bangalore had the steel flyover bridge, and about the citizens for Bangalore got over 6,000 to 8,000 people on the streets to protest about it, and finally it was shelved. Now you can't get people out day after day to keep protesting. You can get them once in a way. So it actually would help the citizenry if you had a more enlightened leadership and bureaucratic administration that worked in partnership with citizen groups and citizen movements, because all of us want the same thing. We want a cleaner city, we want traffic that moves faster and safer, we want non-polluted lakes, and to my mind, such partnerships, there are examples of it working, but we need to find ways to scale it up.
We simply just don't have enough of them, looking at the, you know, humongous problem that our cities are facing. And we are still talking about India's top cities, which probably have the highest level of education, at least concentrated at the top. Shaina NC, when you talk about, I mean, this is something which I feel maybe because it's we are a young nation, but the engagement between citizens and municipal corporations seems to be very, very non-transparent. I mean, if I may say that there is a citizen who is constantly complaining, but there are also municipal corporations and civic authorities which are always on the defense. Plans are made without enough participation with the citizens. So has the government thought about things like that? How do you actually engage citizens more in any kind of planning and actual implementation?
So I think that's a very good question because, like for example, in Maharashtra, our state government has set up this portal called Aple Sarkar, where you can actually put in your suggestions, you can actually get responses from the various departments vis-a-vis any issue you have. So I think we as a society need not necessarily always be blaming the municipal corporation, because in larger cities, especially cities like Mumbai, where you have so much influx, so much load on infrastructure, the way to work is with these small baby steps where we can all collectively ensure that the administration is helped.
Okay, baby steps, and we talked about, at least the last 4 years under this government have been pretty big in terms of optics of getting the big stars involved in even things like Swachh Bharat. But waste segregation, I mean, I just read out the statistics, are pathetic in this country even now. So again, I'm coming back to that same question. Today, in my RWA, if I ever ask about waste segregation, the simple answer is of the secretary that, look, I'm sorry, but the workers who come here do not ask for segregated waste. So municipal corporator does not listen to us. He listens to us, but he doesn't do anything with us. So it seems that there's a lot of passing the buck which keeps happening, according to me.
There is a lot of sense in what Shaina just said. The idea is to try and solve big problems by breaking them up into bite-sized issues which citizens can get involved in.
Okay.
And I think this is what we should have. The municipal corporations of whatever kind they are, trying to break down the problem into simple things that a citizen can do. Drill it down to the lowest level, which means get school children involved in doing that in their schools.
We're going to take a quick short break, but when we come back, we're going to look into a little bit more about how do we use technology, internet, the new civic apps to accelerate this change. So change is happening. I mean, all our panelists are saying, look, citizens are more involved today than they were, let's say, a decade ago. But is it happening fast enough to catch up with those humongous problems that we are all driving ourselves into as we drive into 2019? Stay with us. We'll come back.